For 13 years, Timothy Treadwell spent his summers camping among the bears at Alaska's Katmai National Park. He gave each bear a name and classed them as his friends. He made several documentaries of his wildlife interactions through videos, photos, and audio. However, his luck ran out on October 5, 2003, when just hours from when he was due to be picked up by seaplane to return home for winter, he was mauled and eaten alive by a wild grizzly bear in front of girlfriend Amy Huguenard before the bear turned on her. Born in New York into a middle-class family, Timothy, also known as the Grizzly Man, grew up as an average kid and completed his high school graduation from New York. He later migrated and settled in Southern California and became interested in acting. After being unsuccessful in acting, he became an alcoholic and eventually became a drug addict. After suffering a near-fatal heroin overdose, he decided to change himself and dedicated his life to the Alaskan wild bears. He had always been an animal lover. After his first encounter with a brown bear in Alaska, he knew he had found the love of his life. He had mentioned in his memoir how his love for bears made him stay away from drugs. Katmai National Park and Preserve is a true wilderness destination. The park is noted for its lakes, wild rivers, mountains, forests, and for its abundant wildlife. In particular, the large number of grizzly bears. About 2,200 bears are estimated to inhabit the park, and more bears than people are estimated to live on the Alaska Peninsula. From late June to mid-October, as the fish swim upstream to spawn, dozens of bears gather to eat along the river. Tim would spend the early summers on the Big Green, a grassy area on Hallow Bay. Later, he moved to Kaflia Bay, an area with thick brush. The Kaflia Bay area was better for getting in close contact with the bears. Referred to as the Grizzly Maze, the area was full of intersecting grizzly trails and was easier to hide in. Tim, who was always pushing boundaries with the bears, even set up camp directly on one of the main bear trails, essentially forcing the bears to interact with him. He recorded almost 100 hours of videos and had made a vast collection of still photographs of his interaction with the animals. He had carried bear-repelling spray for self-protection when he first began coming to Alaska to commune with the bears, but had stopped carrying it in recent years. His dangerous tactics had always drawn warnings from the park rangers. Tim believed he had developed a sense of mutual trust and respect with the bears. However, experts thought he was breaking every park rule that there was, in terms of distance to the bears, harassing wildlife, and interfering with natural processes. Amy, in her last diaries, had stated how it made her uncomfortable to live so close to these wild animals, but Tim's passion for the bears assuaged her fear. He even once told David Letterman that they were nothing but party animals. But then, on October 5th, Amy wrote in her journal that, "There's a feeling in the air that makes me a little worried for some reason. Even Tim has seemed a little off in a sense." Tim spoke with a friend by satellite phone and described no problems with the bears. But that changed that night. Tim recorded all his bear interactions, and the ferocious attack was no exception. But in their panic, either he or Amy didn't have time to remove the lens, resulting in 6 long minutes of blood-curdling audio. Tim heard a bear outside the tent and went out to see it. For the next couple of minutes, Tim is heard shouting that the bear is attacking him. The sound of a tent zipper is then heard, and the tent flap opening. Amy is heard screaming to "play dead." Seconds pass before Amy yells again to "play dead." With Amy screaming and yelling nearby, this seems to work, and the bear breaks off the attack. A short conversation ensues as Amy and Tim try to find out if the bear is really gone. Amy made her way to Tim, and from the sounds caught on tape, the bear returns, and Amy is forced to back off. Tim then is clearly heard screaming that playing dead isn't working and is yelling to her to hit the bear. But Amy is heard screaming to fight back. She is then heard screaming, "Stop, go away," as the sound of a frying pan is used to beat the top of the bear's head, and the sound of Tim moaning. Throughout, the bear is sinisterly silent, with Tim's shouts giving way to moans before Amy panics and lets out a series of spine-chilling screams. There, the tape runs out. The last person to speak to Tim was his friend Jewel Polovic. He and Amy called her by satellite phone on Sunday afternoon to share the good news that they had finally seen a favorite bear that Tim was worried about, and they could now come home. The next day, air taxi pilot Willie Fulton arrived at the campsite to pick them up. But what he saw instead was a flattened tent and a pretty nasty-looking bear hunched over a body. There was an eerie silence, and the bear sitting atop of a pile of human remains, feeding from a human ribcage. Outside one tent lay a 3-foot-high mound of grass, mud, twigs, and remains. They tried to scare off the bear, but it stayed. Willie landed on the lake and called Alaska State Troopers in Kodiak and National Park Rangers in King Salmon. The Rangers arrived first and walked to the top of a knob that overlooks the camp. An old male grizzly charged out of the bushes, and they killed it. As the Rangers were loading the camping equipment and remains, another bear approached persistently, and they also killed it. 2 days later, they returned to examine the stomach contents of the dead bears. The investigators recovered 4 bin bags full of human remains from the stomach of the 1,000-pound 28-year-old male, who is said to have struggled to feed that season due to his age and broken teeth. The last thing Tim and Amy would have wanted is to become notorious for being the first fatalities in the history of the park. Tim once told his friend, Kent Fredrickson, who similarly spends his summers camping and walking among Katmai grizzlies, "If they ever come to pick me up and find me dead, I hope they just bury me and don't say a word." Grizzly bears are one of the largest predators in North America. They're second in size only to the polar bear, standing up to 7 feet tall and weighing over 1,000 pounds at their heaviest. And while you can find grizzlies living in Europe or Asia, they tend to be smaller in size compared to the ones that live in Katmai National Park. These bears have a reputation for being fierce, but they are not actually aggressive unless threatened. Most bears are only interested in protecting food, cubs, or their space. However, each bear is an individual and has individual tolerances toward people. Giving bears space is one of the most important guidelines to follow. If you encounter a brown bear, keep these tips in mind. Always carry bear spray. This is a must-have in grizzly country, preferably in a holster or front pocket, since you'll just have a few seconds to fire. Stay calm. Do not shout or make yourself big. Instead, stay calm. Keep your bear spray in your hand and slowly back away while talking in an appeasing voice. Do not turn your back on the bear, but move slowly away to show you are not a threat. Don't be stealthy. If you think bears are in the area, talk, sing, or make other noises to let them know you're there too, without surprising them. If you see a bear that doesn't see you, don't disturb it. Stay on the ground. Never climb a tree to escape a bear. They are excellent climbers, and they tend to chase anything they think is running away, so there's a good chance it would trap you in the tree. Steer clear of places with food that attract bears. Salmon streams, mud flaps with clams, and sedge meadows are areas that attract bears and consequently people who want to watch them. If the bear continues to attack, or if you don't have bear spray, your best chance is to play dead. Tuck into a fetal position and protect your neck and head. If you have a backpack, position yourself so that this protects you. And don't get up straight away. Wait around 20 to 30 minutes until you're sure that the bear is gone.